We are live.
Hey, happy Tuesday, Abby.
Happy Tuesday, Rachel. You look lovely today.
You look lovely and your background's different.
I know, guys, we have an actual YouTube studio, aka a room that we painted white last week and put some plants and a bookshelf in.
It looks really good. It
Thank
looks
you.
really good.
I'm very excited. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Tuesday live stream. Here at the Virtual Savvy, we go live every single week to talk about some element of virtual assistants, freelancing, working from home, how to deal with clients, how to raise your rates, how to market your business. We talk about something different every single week. And I'm really excited because we're talking about something a little touchy this week. Something that can be difficult.
That's right.
And that is how to deal with kind of those problem clients, with the difficult clients, with the ones that it's just not quite working out. What are some things you can do ahead of time to set expectations with those kinds of clients? How to identify those clients in the first place, so maybe you know not to work with them. We're going to be hearing from the amazing Rachel Dorsey.
You're too kind. Thank you, my dear.
The
Hosted by
What?
the amazing Abby Ashley.
Hey, Rachel's our Senior Director of Product here at the Virtual Savvy. She has not only built her own virtual assistant business, but has helped countless others of our students, of you guys, many of you guys, she has helped personally in building your businesses, has so much wisdom, so much expertise. And Rachel also has this like unique ability she's like the most calming person I know. She can take the most tense situation and just make you go, oh, everything's gonna be okay.
Totally fine.
It's totally
fine.
Rachel's catchphrase is it's totally fine. And when she says it, you just believe it. You're like, it is totally fine. It wasn't 2 seconds ago, but now it is.
It is. I absolutely love supporting our people, whether they're a student inside our Savvy system or they're a member of Savvy Vault or our group coaching program, Savvy Circle. Like, I just love meeting our people exactly where they are and supporting you guys to take that next step. And today's topic is exactly about that. Like, sometimes those difficult clients are causing you to not be able to take that next step forward. And we're going to kind of talk through that. But Abby, something else I kind of want to touch on too today is you may have a really good client and you need to have a difficult conversation.
Oh, that's good too. Yeah.
So if we have time and space, I would love to chat through that too.
For sure. Well, let's just jump right on because we've got a bunch of people on and I think that we're ready. For anybody who's maybe new to the Virtual Savvy, new to what we do here, why don't you take a little moment just to kind of introduce yourself, Rachel, and let everybody know who you are, what got you to this point, what you do here at the Virtual Savvy.
Absolutely. Again, my name's Rachel Dorsey. My position here at the Virtual Savvy is Senior Director of Product. I started my own virtual assistant journey back in 2017. Like many of you, Googling, trying to find a legit work at home opportunity, stumbled upon virtual assistants, jumped in, purchased the Savvy system, and built a successful executive virtual assistant business of my own. Then I joined the team in 2018 as the executive assistant here at the Virtual Savvy, and I've held a few positions since then, but have landed into my dream role as the Senior Director of Product, where I get to support our amazing directors and our support specialists, and of course you inside of our various products. I'm married to my amazing husband Joe for 16 years.
Yeah, you are.
3 littles, 10, 9, and 3. And my 3-year-old is homesick today. He's supposed to be taking a nap, but he may end up visiting the office.
We'll see. He might make a guest appearance, but it's fine.
So that's a little bit about me.
Fun fact about Rachel's husband, Mr. Joe Dorsey, is that occasionally we'll like get food for the team, right? So we'll go and like order pizza for people or like, I don't know, some kind of takeout, or like we'll send something in the mail. And my husband will only address the order to
Sir Sexy Joe Dorsey.
Sir Sexy. So he has to go and say, I have an order for, or he's like, an order for Joe Dorsey. And they're like, are you Sir Sexy Joe Dorsey?
Oh, the last time that happened was at a pizza joint, and Joe walked in, and he didn't say that was his name. He just said it was Joe, and the guy behind the counter quickly corrected him and said, "Oh, you must be Sir Sexy Joe Dorsey."
Yep, that's me. He's a good sport about it, though. So it works out great. Okay. So today we're talking about how to deal with difficult clients. And so I'd love to just kind of hear first, because it's always, some like, what is it? Misery loves company.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Do you have your own, without naming names, do you have your own difficult client story? Just make sure you name their name and blast it.
So the name of the client was, no, I won't do that. Yes, I had a very difficult client for various reasons. I was her executive assistant, so I supported her inside of a lot of her different systems, Kajabi, Acuity, her email, calendars, client onboarding, all of those things. But she was very emotionally draining. And I didn't really realize it until we got farther down the line. Whether it was the way that she talked to me, she had Voxer access, so she would primarily contact me through Voxer. So if it was either the way that she talked to me, addressed to me, asked me for things, I didn't really catch on to it until it was too far down the line, and I was exhausted and I was burnt out. There were broken boundaries. Y'all, if you have clients that connect with you on a one-on-one basis, whether it's Slack or whether it's Voxer where they can message you or texting or anything like that, once that boundary is broken, it's so hard to build it back up. And that's what had happened, because I have a servant's heart and I wanted to help her and be the best virtual assistant that I could for her. When that boundary was broken, of course, yeah, I'll answer you. It's 10 p.m. at night. Big mistake. And so once that boundary was broken, it was so hard to build it back up. But because she was so emotionally draining for me, it was not a fit. I was not aligned with her anymore. She had a great business, and I really did like the services and the products that she was building, but us as a match, it just was not a good fit.
Yeah, I think that's important to say too. I think sometimes we feel, there's so many different elements to this, which we'll dive into, but sometimes we feel really difficult where we're like, this person is so draining and this is whatever. And a lot of times it's not even that they're like a bad business owner or a bad person or anything. If somebody is like talking poorly to you, like, being like actually mean to you or whatever, obviously, or degrading, then that's not good. But a lot of times it's like, it's just not a good match, right? I know for me, I like my most difficult client, and a client that I had to eventually fire, which we'll talk about, for me was this person that they were just really new in business. And at the time I was pretty new in business too, right? Like this was one of my very first clients. And so it'd be like one day they'd ask for one thing, and then the next day they'd ask for something else. And it'd be like, I'd work so hard on this project and they'd be like, oh, we're actually switching it this direction. And what do you think about this and this and this? And because they didn't have their stuff together, they didn't really know what to have me do. And I myself am a little like all over the place. So me organizing somebody else's mess was like not great. Whereas somebody else would be like, oh my gosh, I love it when I have clients that are a little all over the place because I am able to streamline them and organize them. And for me, it just wasn't a match. So it's not always that this person is like a bad person. Sometimes it's just not a good fit, right?
Absolutely. And it could be not a good fit for a variety of reasons. One of the clients that I just thought of, the service didn't match. I was still in kind of the experimental phase. Like, what do I want to do? Where do I really want to service? What do I want to niche down to? And I actually dove into the recruiting world. And I had a friend who was very high up in recruiting, makes really good money, but he needed some support to come in and do some sourcing. And so I'm like, yeah, like I could totally do that. I love connecting with people. But once I got into it, it just was not a fit for
Yeah.
me. I did not love the work.
I don't enjoy this at all.
No, and it's not that he was a bad person or that we didn't get along. Quite the opposite. We worked really well together, but the service just wasn't a match for me. I didn't love doing it. And that's what we want you guys to do, is build a business around what you love doing, when you love it, where you love it, and with who you want to work with. And so that was a match. And that's why I had to fire that client.
Yeah. Firing sounds like really harsh, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just like a parting of ways. And we can talk about how to do that well. So let me dive into this, because I feel like it was really interesting what you said, is that one of the problems with that example that you gave was that this client crossed a lot of boundaries, and a lot of it was that you like allowed them to cross a lot of boundaries. So let's talk a little bit about like setting expectations with clients. And because I do think that is like, when we're talking about dealing with difficult clients, a lot of times it is it's like a communication thing, and it's that they're messaging you at 3 a.m. or that they're or maybe that they're not paying invoices on time, or maybe that they're, like, I think it is, or maybe you haven't outlined a way for them to give you like, okay, what are my projects this week? And if you haven't laid out a system for how they're going to give you your projects, then it's kind of like, hey, what am I working on? Let me send you an email. Let me send you a Slack message. And it's like not organized. So what are some of the ways that you can actually set communication expectations, procedural expectations with clients? What are some of your ideas and thoughts around that? And if anybody in the comments has ways that you've set this up into your own business, I mean, we're all here to learn together. So make sure you comment below and we'll make sure to highlight your thoughts.
Absolutely. I would love to hear some of the systems that y'all use. So I'll give you two quick thoughts that I had. The first one is communicating from the very beginning. Like right when you're onboarding your client. I, after that situation, quickly learned that I needed to set my boundaries and put them out there right away and clearly. So a simple email letting them know when you can be reached. I can be reached between the hours of 9 and 5 Central Time, whatever that looks like. But also, what is your turnaround time? Because you can send me a message, you can send me a Slack, you can send me an email, you can even send me a Voxer, but it's not guaranteed that I'm going to get back to you within 5 minutes. There may be a longer turnaround time, 1 to 2 hours, totally fair. Thinking of, I may be in a meeting, I may be at a lunch, right? And presenting that and putting that out there right at the very beginning. So that's one example, and that's easy to implement. And you can work that right into your workflow of when you're onboarding your clients. The second one is Voxer specific. So Voxer is a walkie-talkie app. It worked really, really well for me and my clients because they could quickly drop me a message or verbally process, and they could type it or talk it, either way. But once I got connected with them on Voxer, I sent them a message. The very first message that I would send them would let them know, hey, use Voxer to connect with me how best it works for you, whether you're typing or talking. And then I would let them know my boundaries. I would tell them that I'm not on Voxer in the evening hours because I'm spending time with my family. And I also don't respond to Voxers on the weekends for the same reason, unless there is a predetermined reason why we would need to be connected. If there was a launch happening, or I knew that there was something important that needed to be done, then we would prearrange that. But putting those expectations and setting those boundaries right from the beginning to not give them the opportunity to push.
Yeah, 100%. And then once you set them, stick to them, right?
Because 100%.
If you say you're not available in the evening, and I know there's a lot of, this is something that I'm like learning how to do too, is that there's a lot of different apps and tools that you can do to even like delay. So let's say that somebody sends you an email and you just happen to be working at 2 a.m. because you woke up and you're like, well, I might as well work or whatever. Like you just, but like there's an app called Boomerang where you can actually like schedule to send your email later. And then I just noticed that Slack has scheduling. Did you see that?
I did not see that.
Yeah, you can schedule Slack messages to go out later too. So again, if you're typing a Slack message, a client message you at 9 p.m., you could, leave your light off to say like that they don't know that you're active. You can type your message, and then there's like next to the send, there's a little drop down where you can actually schedule to send that out the next morning or whatever. And I think that just those little things are a way to, hold to your boundaries. But if you have, the capacity, this is your business, you can work late at night if you want. But I think those little things kind of help just to reinforce those boundaries.
For sure. And at the time that I had that client, I had a newborn. Jax was just born. And so there were times, absolutely, I was working at night. But that Boomerang app that I added to my Chrome, wonderful, because I could respond to customer emails, or I could respond to an email in my client's inbox, but I could schedule it to go out during the working hours. Yep. So check all of your platforms that you're using, whether it's Slack, and I have to go find out how to schedule. That's super cool. And make sure you check on your preferences. How can you snooze yourself? How can you still work so that they can't reach you? Things like that. How can you pre-schedule emails? Looking through all of your systems and platforms that you use, and look for those ways that you can still work, but still keep those boundaries. Because once you break them, it's so hard to build them back up.
Would you give your phone number out to clients?
No.
Me either. Nope. That was like a hard boundary, which some people, I remember some clients were like a little resistant. It's just like, this is the way I work. Every way that you need to get available, like reach me during working hours, I check Slack, I check, email or whatever it may be. I mainly just did email, honestly. If you have an organizational tool like Trello or ClickUp, be like, hey, all of our communication needs to be in one of these platforms. Like you get to choose. And that's the beauty of you being your own business owner, is that you get to say, hey, this is the way I work. Right. Mm-hmm. And what's awesome is sometimes we feel like, oh my gosh, that's going to be like, they're going to think, oh no, that you're not flexible or you're not whatever, where I have really found that if you set those boundaries and you say, hey, all right, here's what it looks like to work with me. I'm available during these hours. I communicate via Slack. So you'll be added to a Slack channel. And that's how it actually is, one, it positions you as an expert because it makes you really look like you know what you're talking about and you know what you're doing. And it makes the client a lot of times just more at ease. Like, okay, I don't have to figure this out because they've already figured it out for me. Because a lot of times people hiring a VA, it may be the first time that they've even outsourced. Yep. So they have all the questions of like, how is this going to work? How am I going to send stuff to you? And if you've already taken care of it, like, how much more calming is that for them? So I think it's one of those things that we get nervous about sometimes, when it's actually like an advantage and not a disadvantage to have clear boundaries and expectations.
Absolutely. And back to the phone number, like I didn't need to give them my phone number because I had Voxer, and that kind of was very similar in that they could text me, send me messages, or they could talk to me. I didn't need to give them out my phone number. It was never even an issue because I still had that line of communication that was open and that assured them that they could still contact me when they needed to, and I would respond when I get back.
100%. Okay. So good. If you guys have questions about other ways to set expectations, go ahead and drop them in the comments. And here's actually, this is one kind of relating to it question. It may not be the place. It's totally the place. What do you put on a business card if not your personal number? So like my recommendation is, because I think business cards are great, especially if you're going to networking events. A lot of people are just really used to that like business card like environment. Some people now, I've noticed at a lot of conferences and stuff, they'll have like LinkedIn has like a special code, and or like Instagram, and you can just like scan the person's thing and follow them on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. So that's one alternative. But I would just put your email, your website, and if you wanted to have a phone number, you could do like a Google Voice, which I usually set up, with any new businesses, like a Google Voice number. That way there is a phone number, but even that, I don't know, like I think just your website and email's perfect. Or if
absolutely.
You have platform, right?
What's really fun too is nowadays you can go on and create a QR code for free. Like,
Yeah.
so let's say maybe you have a really cool opt-in or your social page. It can be anywhere, any link. You can create a QR code. And if it's on a business card, they can use their phone and scan it and go where they need to.
Yep.
So just give them a way to contact you. And like Abby said, if you have to have a phone number, then you can use a Google Voice, something like that, where it's not your personal number. I would never recommend giving out your personal number.
I agree. Awesome. Great questions. Keep them coming, guys, because this is the kind of stuff we need to be talking about.
Yes.
All right.
So good.
So, Rachel, let's talk about when is it time to fire a client? How do you know the time has come where it's like, I can't work with this person anymore. It's not a fit. And and then we can talk about how do you do it. But let's first talk about like signs. How do you know it's time?
Well, there's so many different things that can cause the need to let a client go or fire a client, as we're saying today. Also, I want you to recognize, not you, Abby, like our audience, right? Like to recognize that by using the term firing a client, you're taking ownership of the relationship between you and your client. You are making the choice as a contractor who you get to work with. And when it's not aligned for a variety of reasons, then you get to make the choice to let them go or fire them. Okay. I wanted to bring that forward because it kind of sounds negative and it's a really strong phrase, but it's also an empowering phrase that you get to make that choice. Okay. Sorry. Circle back. So reasons why. It could be the service doesn't align anymore. You don't like offering the service. It could be that the only service that they need, you aren't going to offer anymore. It could be that you don't get along with the client. Like, let's be real. You're building a business working with the people you want to. And if you don't get along with them, if you don't enjoy working with them, that could totally be a reason. With my business, I was an executive virtual assistant. So I was knee deep in all of the things. And so my personal philosophy for my clients was, if I won't go out to dinner with them and sit down and share a meal, we're probably not a match. Right? Like, I want to get along with the people that I work with. And sometimes that takes time. And we teach inside of Savvy System, like, have a trial period. And trial, I don't mean free. Like, have a short contract at the beginning, 30, 60 days, where you can get to know them, get into their business and see if it's a right fit, so that when that term is over, then you can readjust the contract or gracefully exit. And there's
I think that is so important, and maybe not even something that we talk about enough here is this idea of a trial period, especially if this is going to be an ongoing, like if it's a one-time project, sometimes it's just like, okay, I'm just doing a one-time project for this person. Let me just get it over with and know I'm never going to work with them again. Right. Like, I'll just stick it out and whatever. But like, if this is going to be an ongoing relationship with this person, then having, signing at first just a 30-day contract, again, it's good for you and it's good for them, because it's just like, hey, we'll work together for 30 days. We'll get to know each other. Our processes aren't going to be perfect in 30 days. I think it takes really 6 months to really like be a part of that person's business. And you can set that expectation up front. Like, for me to be like so seamlessly integrated that we are like, on the same plane, like that can take 6 months or so. So no, but after 30 days, we're going to know, are our communication styles good? Are we just jiving? Am I able to fulfill the services that you're wanting? Are we, is this just a good fit? And what's nice is that you can pre-schedule a meeting 30 days in and just have a, like, how's it going? Like, let's give some honest feedback to one another during this time. Is there anything we need to shift? And it gives you a time and a place to have that discussion, because one of the hardest things is if you're dealing with a difficult client, you usually know within the first few weeks. You usually know if this is going to work or not. And then it's kind of like, oh, now I have to schedule a meeting, or now I need to send that email, or now whatever. But if it's already there, it's already on the calendar, then it's like, okay, like we've already decided. And I think that coming to that meeting, kind of prepared with what you're going to say. And, we'll talk into some of the ins and outs of how to actually do it in a second. But I think these are all really, really good ideas.
Yeah, and setting that expectation inside even the contract, right? Like
Mhm.
this is for 30 days, and at the end of the 30 days, we'll have a strategy call or a reconnection call or whatever you want to call it to talk about the contract and make any adjustments moving forward. And just put that out there. And like Abby said, schedule it. Like it's only if you're doing a 30-day, even if you're doing 45 or 60-day, whatever it is, just schedule it. Get it on
Yep.
the calendar so that it's there and you both are expecting it and you know that it's there. I think that also gives you the freedom to plan right from the beginning things that you see,
Mhm.
hesitations that you have, misconnections,
Yep.
messes, all the things. You can make note of that. You know what? I have a call with her coming up in just 2 weeks. We can talk through it then and readjust if needed.
100%. There's some really good gems here in the comments too. I fire clients when they don't bring me joy.
Oh, that's good.
The TVS team said, remember why you wanted to be your own boss. You get to choose who you work with. And then Sarika says, fire a client when they break boundaries or are disrespectful to you. 100%. That to me is like if somebody's going to be disrespectful or rude, that's like not even a 3 strikes you're out. That's a 1 strike you're out. Like I don't mess with rude people. I ain't got time for that. Right.
Right,
Like,
and make sure that that's built into your contract. And we can have the team drop the link to our toolbox inside
yeah,
of the comments. But like, make sure that your contract is well written so that it gives you that exit clause per se. And we have one built into our contract that's in the toolbox so that you have the ability to walk away when you need to walk away.
yeah.
And make sure that that's just built in to what you have. Protect
I,
yourself.
100%. I'll say this too, because as I was like saying, like, I have no tolerance for people that are rude. I feel like this is also important to say is that I have realized over time that communicating online is so different
Oh,
than
yes.
communicating in person, and that
Yes.
people have different styles. Like
Mhm.
I am well, yeah, I am like emoji crazy. Like I will literally
She
anytime
is. She is.
I end every single message with a heart just because I'm like, oh, hey, would you mind doing this for me? Question mark heart. Because I'm so sensitive that people are going to be like, will you please do this for me?
Right.
Like
Right.
there's no emphasis
Uh-huh.
inside of messages. And so many people are, there are people, and you'll get to learn this over time, is like, oh, this person isn't rude. They're just a short, texter, or they're a short, like in
Yep.
Slack, they just say, yep, and
Mhm.
that's it. And you might read that as like, yep, like quit annoying me, da 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 da.
Right.
And so I would really, 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 really stress to you, like when it comes to online business, don't read between the lines.
Yes.
It's like the one time you don't want to, because it's just easy to get offended when
Mhm.
you are assuming somebody is coming at a position. And that yeah, does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And it's so funny that you brought that up because we were just talking about this on our coaching call inside of Savvy Circle. And we were talking about the difference between communication and conversation. Because
Mm-hmm.
you can communicate with somebody in a text, in a Slack, in an email, right? But it doesn't fully convey the conversation that you're trying to have. Because what happens in a conversation? You have eye contact, you have
Yeah.
body language, you have intonation, you have inflection. And when all of those pieces are missing, all you have is just communication. So you
Right.
have to be very, very careful not to read in between those lines and infer the inflection or the intonation and what they're trying to say. Like, yep,
Uh-huh.
she's annoyed with me. No, she's just busy and just was acknowledging what you were saying. That's really all that it was. So
Uh-huh.
we have to be very careful not to do that. And Scott brought something up. I saw it in the comments. I don't, it scrolled up, but he was saying, what if they don't come? Like, what if you have calls scheduled and they
Oh
don't
yeah.
come? Well, maybe it's a conversation of, are calls the best way to communicate with you? Because all of our clients are going to have different communication strengths and communication weaknesses. And so some of my clients, they didn't use Voxer. It didn't work for them. They just preferred an email. Some of them preferred the Slack, or they would talk to me inside of Asana or Trello in between what we were working on. So find out what works best for your client and support them in that way.
Yeah. Such good advice. I love this. So, all right. So we decide, hey, I've tried a couple of different things and I know in my gut that this person is not the right fit for me. So then what? Like, what do we do then?
Hide in a corner and cry. No, don't do that.
That's all you do.
Don't do that.
What
Be confident in your decision. Sometimes I think too, I meant to say this earlier, is it may be a service, it may be the miscommunication, it may be the services. Sometimes it's just a gut feeling. And trust your gut. If this just doesn't feel aligned with who you are and what you want to do, it's okay to walk away. It's okay to let them go. It's okay to fire the client. And it can be a variety of different ways, but I would definitely recommend that you do it in written form, at least. Whether it's an email or if your Slack messages are saved, just so that there's some kind of paper trail to it, but absolutely in written form, and invite them to a conversation. To follow up, right? Like, is it a Zoom call? Is it a Voxer back and forth? Like, whatever that looks like for you and your client, to let them ask questions and walk through it in a professional way. Definitely in written form, and definitely open it up for a conversation if they would like to continue.
100%. I think having like, hey, like I've been doing some thinking and I feel like this isn't really working out between us, or I'm transitioning my services. I'm no longer offering this, or whatever the actual reason is, right? And then I'd love to talk with you about this further, because like you said, then if you invite them to a phone call or whatever, it also gives them a chance to process. I think initially, if we just like jump on and do a call, we're just kind of like hitting them upside the head with like, whoa, where does this come from? Whereas if you send them the message, then it gives them some time to process, time to come up with questions. And then one of the things that I think can be super helpful too is like, you want to now, unless if it's a client that's like has been actual like mean or rude to you, at that point you can just cut ties and go. But anything that you can do to like transition well, I think is always recommended. If it's just not a good fit, like, hey, I've already, talked to 2 or 3 VAs who are interested in working with you. Here's their contact information, that kind of stuff. Like just that extra above and beyond step, which we're all about, value first here at the Virtual Savvy. So like, man, what does it mean to go just like one step further so that they still, because you can fire a client well, and you can fire a client in a way that they still would recommend you to other people even, right? Like, and so yeah, I think that doing something of like, hey, I'm gonna, if you still enjoy this client, but you are transitioning your services, like, hey, for the next 2 weeks, I'm gonna like help offboard you to whoever you hire next or whatever it may be. And I mean, that kind of depends on the situation, but I think there's definitely a way to do it well.
Absolutely. And I did that with most of the clients as I was transitioning out of having my executive virtual assistant business and then working full time here at the Virtual Savvy. There was a transition time. And so what I did was I let them know that I was making a pivot and change inside of my business, and I was no longer going to be offering these services, but that I would help onboard the next person. And so I would help them. We posted the job ops inside of our communities, inside of our paid communities. We, she picked the ones that she wanted, and this was 3 different individuals that I had. And then I would help onboard them into my position so that I could gracefully exit, and they would have support because they were dear clients, right? But there was a misalignment with I'm no longer offering these services and I need to gracefully exit. And so helping them, going above and beyond that extra step can be a huge way that you fire a client in a kind way and in a professional way.
100%. It could be even as simple as like, hey, I've been answering your emails. And so I went ahead and wrote down like a step-by-step process of how I do it. And I've left a couple of templates to help you train the next person. It may not be even that you stay on for weeks or whatever. It kind of depends on the situation, but like, is there anything that you could do to ease going in that again, leaves them with like a good I don't know, like still like, oh, okay, that's kind of sad, but man, she really went above and beyond. Like, I think that that's kind of that just that good feeling transition, and you're going to feel better about it too. Yep. At the end of the day, it's still like, well, and it might depend on the person, but I am so anti-confrontational naturally that like no matter what, it still makes me like, you know,
right.
And it feels terrible in the moment, even if you go about it the best way possible. But it's one of those things that the best thing you can do is to protect yourself and your business. Sure. If you're working with one client that just, it just kind of makes you sick at your stomach to work with them, then you're not going to be able to serve your other clients well. You're not going to grow your business as well. You're not going to be able to achieve your why as well. And all of the things that actually really matter to you. And you're holding on to this one client because it's going to be difficult to break up with them. Like, it's not worth it. All the other reasons that you have why you started your business is worth that difficult conversation. So as somebody who's not good at this kind of stuff, trust me, I literally I've fired a client before and like I've done this wrong. So I've literally fired a client before, and at the end of the conversation, they were like, "Oh, it's okay. No, like we can keep working together." And I was like, okay, cool. I'll see you next week. No. like I wasn't.
That's not the message I was trying to communicate.
No, that's not what I did. It's like I just wasn't like confident enough. I didn't have a plan of action. I just beat around the bush, and I'm just like, I'm just not sure if we should continue or whatever. And they're like, no, I think we should. I'm like, all right, sounds good.
So, wait, what's the end of that story? How did that story end?
I had to send an email. I should have sent an email first. And because, I'm not very good at being direct always in conversations.
That's amazing. Sure. Of course we can. I think too, you brought up a really good point. And if you take away anything from this conversation, it's that you have to protect yourself. You have to protect yourself inside of your contract and be very clear on what that time frame is, on when you can give notice, all those things, so that if you have a client that maybe doesn't respond, like you just can't get them on the phone or they're not answering their emails and you just need to let them go, then you follow what your contract says, you send the email, and then you go. Like you did all that you could do. And if they're not going to respond, that's on them. You followed the steps in what was written and how you protected yourself inside of your contract. And it's okay to do that. Just protect yourself and follow the steps that you lay out.
Here's a really good question. Good points, Rachel. Have you ever encountered a situation where we have a closing meeting, we've decided to let it go a client, and that they disclose something extremely personal, like a death of a loved one, and changed your mind? I mean, I haven't had that personally happen, but I feel like I could see that kind of thing happening. And I think it's just a broader idea that like, we never know the full picture. And it could be that like this client has just all of a sudden been like super distant and not getting things to you, or has been like a little more edgy. And you're just like, oh, I don't think I used to like working with this client, but now I don't like working with them anymore a lot of times. And I think it's where that relationship comes in. And not everybody wants to operate their business this way, but I agree with Rachel that I love having like personal relationships with clients where you can it's like if you'd be comfortable sitting down and having dinner with them, maybe you're comfortable with being like, hey, I hope it's okay that I say this, but it just seems like things have been kind of off lately. Like, is everything okay? Whatever it may be. And I think being able to have those candid conversations is awesome. And not everyone wants to run their business that way, and that's okay. And you're not there to be your clients' counselors or anything like that, but you can ask them, hey, what's going on? And then, potentially offer them up some resources if they are needing, help with different things. So I don't know. I think that's, it's just kind of a good perspective to be like, we don't always know what's going on the other end. And a lot of us tend to just think the worst. We just kind of think like, it must be me. They must be mad about, they're not responding because they're mad about what I did, or they're not responding, or they're being more short because I did something wrong, or they're going to fire me, or they're going to whatever,
Right.
and then
Right.
at the end of the day, we realize it's something totally like something I've learned is most of the time, and this is just like life in general, most of the time I think it's about me, and most of the time it's not about me.
100%.
Not about me at all.
That's so true. And I think that if we just open up our minds and our hearts to the possibility that something may be wrong, like maybe this client is like all of a sudden more harsh or more distant, like going to them in the moment, right then when you're noticing it. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's nerve-wracking. And yes, you don't know the response you're going to get, but at least you're noticing, and they will, I hope, take note to that. And if they don't, and it's not the fit, well, then that's just reassurance that it's time to go and it's time to cut ties. And
yes, 100%. Here's one last good question that I think we should talk about. What strategies would you recommend to avoid taking things too personally, especially if we don't fit?
That's a hard one.
Like, because I think there's the other side of this is that, occasionally you may decide this isn't a good fit, and occasionally your clients may decide that it's not a good fit as well.
Well, and going back to the fact that, again, you are creating a business that you love, doing what you love, when you love, where you love, and with who you love. I'll say that over and over again.
Yeah.
And if it's not a match, if for whatever reason, if they're rude or it's not a fit for the service or the communication is not good, you own it and take responsibility to take action. Because, and we've said this before too, when you say no to something, you allow yourself to say yes to something else. Exactly. So if I'm saying no to this client because we don't communicate well, I don't like the way that they speak, we cannot get on the phone when we need to get on the phone, like taking ownership of that and saying, no, that's not the kind of client that I want to work with. Saying no to that allows you to say yes to the client that you do want to work with, that you can get on the phone, that you do communicate well with, and taking ownership of that.
I love it. I love it. This has been so, so good, Rachel.
Such a great conversation.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. And your studio looks phenomenal.
Thank you. I'm so excited for it. It's been really fun to film videos in like an actual space that's designated for this. So we literally painted the walls, and like I still got the old, like, here you guys can see, like we've got like this cute little bookcase and a nice little plant and cool curtains, and then like the old ugly like lamps, and like we literally just got like this corner of the room looking good, and that's it. But hey,
I can't wait to come see it in person. I can't wait.
I know. We're gonna have to get you out here soon. So
okay, so I can't let you go without asking you to sing your little song about the client.
Do you guys want to hear? I wrote this on a plane like 3 years ago when I was dealing with a difficult client. I just had this wave of inspiration.
It's so good, y'all. Do y'all want to hear it? You need to let us know. Yes. Say yes in the comments. Sing it.
Okay, you guys want to hear my song? It is well, I'm not a good singer, so maybe you won't recognize the tune. But the title of the song is Bug a Client. Okay?
Bug a Client.
Bug a Client. Here we go. I'm not a good singer, so just
you got it. Be bold. Be bold.
All right, be bold. Be bold. You make me want to throw my laptop out the window, pretend that I'm sick, avoid the phone calls, break our contract because you a tyrant, because you a bug a client, a bug a client. I can tell you've been living under a rock, but the 10-page emails have got to stop because you a bug a client. You bugging what? You bugging who? My time ain't free, so don't you see it ain't cool. It's not hot that you be calling me, stressing me, checking our Trello board. You just nonstop. And it's not hot that you be leaving me messages on Voxer and then you give Facebook a try. On our discovery call, you were cool, but it was game. You had me fooled because 20 minutes after I gave you the link, you already had my Calendly full. You make me want to throw my laptop out the window, pretend that I'm sick, avoid the phone calls, break our contract because you a tyrant, because you a bug a client, a bug a client. I can tell you've been living under a rock, but the 10-page emails have got to stop because you a bug a client. You bugging what? You bugging who? My time ain't free, so don't you see it ain't cool. And it's not hot when I send you an invoice, you're conveniently out of town. And it's not hot, it's 2 a.m., I'm sleeping, and then you're tracking me down. You need to chill out with that mess because you can't keep having me stressed. stress, because every time I get a Skype call, it's you, and now I'm seriously depressed. Oh, here we go. Call me on the weekend, you bugging me. Send me pictures of your cat, you bugging me. Everything you do be bugging me. You bugging me. You bugging me. When you forget our one-on-one, you're bugging me. When you always change your mind, you're bugging me. I see your Facebook Live, you're bugging me. You're bugging me. You're bugging me. Last part. Throw out my laptop. Pretend I have the flu. Wear a cast so you'll think my wrist is broke because you a bugger client, a bugger client. That's it. And then thou shall not renew our retainer.
Thou shalt not.
So hopefully you
It was so good, Abby. It's so funny because the original client that I was thinking of at the beginning of this live, so many things that you say in that. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So if anybody who actually knows how to sing wants to ever record that for me, that would be the best. Thank you.
Way to be bold.
Way to be bold.
I love it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. I hope that you have a great rest of the day. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.